Yeah. All right, I'm going to switch to mine because I want to give Mike a lot of time.
Yeah, bring us back. Lift us up.
All right. So, okay. Well, ironically, your thesis and my thesis are almost going to land in the same place. So I'm going to turn on Prezi Video. First off, when I was talking about Gemini, like literally I do a presentation, Mike, it's called AI Today. It's a lot like your state of AI, but I go to businesses and I basically say, look, this is how the tide's changing. This is where it's at. This is where it's going. This is how you can be prepared. And so ironically, I started this whole journey when Paul was on my show in 2020. And this is pretty much what I do full time for the agency, is I just talk about AI. Anyhow, long story short is that I was telling people before Gemini came out, I was like, this thing could be 5x stronger, 5x stronger than GPT-4. And, you know, like it came out and I wanted to be excited. And, you know, I mean, you're looking at certain benchmarks that the benchmarks were, you know, maybe about 5 to 10% better. They weren't comparing it. They weren't comparing it against GPT-4 Turbo. They were basically comparing it against version 4. And a lot of times they were basically talking about how Ultra was going to compare to it. And so you have this like really confusing chart of just how things line up. And so one of the things that I was finding, it was like, I'm finding that's a little bit confusing. Is that misleading? But you know what? I was like, the tail's in the tape. So then they showed this.
Here we go. Tell me what you see.
I see you placing a piece of paper on the table. I see a squiggly line.
What about now?
The contour lines are smooth and flowing, with no sharp angles or jagged edges. It looks like a bird to me.
What if I add this?
The bird is swimming in the water. It has a long neck and beak. It is a duck.
Yeah.
Okay, so I texted Paul this, and I'm in the camp where Paul was like, dude, you need to relax. But I was in the camp of Bard botched. In my opinion, Bard was GPT-4, GPT 3.5, and then 4 came out. I thought Bard was going to come in like a sledgehammer, and I thought Bard was a massive disappointment. So when I thought Gemini came out, I said, you know what? They're going to crush it. And they said, we're going to push back our launch until Q1 of next year. So I'm like, okay, they're going to get it right. Then all of a sudden, this comes out. And I'm like, I'm looking at these metrics. I'm like, well, it's not 5x better. But then they show this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they figured it out. They figured out a way with zero latency to basically go from video to AI. Like, that's a massive step forward that GPT-4 simply just does not have. You know what I mean? And so I was in this camp, like, I'm like literally dreaming of like, what could you do with this? You know? I mean, like, I was thinking even like, I saw a guy online that put a video game, and he was playing a video game, and he was doing something with an open source model where they had a commentator of the video game, like it was like a WWF event, and it was just literally watching a live video game. And I was like, this is the future, that you put a video in and it's going to understand a video the way a human understands a video. And then it comes out where I'm just like, it comes out that this wasn't exactly true, that they had done a lot of post-production, a lot of magic, that they had literally uploaded still screenshots, and this isn't the product that's promised. And I'm just like, kind of like, Google, like what is going on here? You know what I mean? So that's issue number one. Now let me show you where I'm going with where I believe video is going. And I know, Mike, I know you guys are really into Runway ML.
Yeah.
But let me show you one of their competitors. This was in your newsletter, though, Mike. And I'd heard about these guys, and I was texting Paul. I was like, have you seen this? Hold on for a second.
I love how passionate you are about this, Chris. You're like, I've been betrayed.
I've been betrayed
by Google. Oh, you got me. Oh, why did I believe you?
I believed
Google,
you.
No.
You did it again. All right, so watch this. This is called Pika Labs. I think it's 1.0. Check this out. So like, what did we just see here? Well, the first thing is you just type something in and it just basically creates the way it used to create an image with Midjourney, it creates a video. And the quality and the smoothness of this, I actually don't believe that Runway ML has achieved yet. I mean, keep in mind that we're comparing it to a model that's over a year old or half a year old. Then you just start to see just some of the effects that it can do. Like whether it's like looks like a commercial, whether it's animated or whatever that is. You type more things out. I mean, this was in Runway ML, but like some of the things that you can do with this are absolutely incredible. But then it can go even farther. Like you can drop an image in. It starts out where the image starts and then just make an image move. You can take an existing video and then just layer on top a different skin. If you want to expand the canvas, I watched The Grinch with my kids and I was like, this was made like 100 years ago and the sides are all black, or I could use AI to just solve that problem right away. And then, it's also just like with Firefly, you can just change things and it's in video. Look at the reflection. It's unbelievable, right? So now we go full circle and I say, well, I'm mad at Gemini, but then I saw this. This was very interesting. They're calling it bespoke UI. And so here's what you're doing is that you're typing in a normal prompt the way we do in GPT-4, but now it's literally creating a user interface. And so the $1 million question for me is the same thing that you had, Andy, is like, do we need a browser anymore when literally the UI can be created in the AI as well? It's just really crazy about how all these things are sort of all combining all at the same time. And you just start to think, well, we can't live in a world where it's just text. Okay, now we can generate an image. Now we can generate a video. Now we can generate a user interface. It's like if you dream it, not only can you see it, like it's literally in an interface that's controllable and digestible. And so as a person who makes 30% of my income comes from web development, that scares me. Content marketing, that scares me. Like all of this stuff, it scares me and it's an opportunity. But it does make me think that like when these college grads that I speak at, you and I both speak at colleges all the time, I'm like, the world you're doing right now as a freshman will look so radically different by the time you graduate. It's almost like maybe just quit, just like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, like whatever you're learning is so far behind the way the world will be. It's crazy.
It's pretty stunning how quickly some of these move. I mean, to your point, and Gemini could be its whole, we could probably have an entire event around the gaffe with that video and things like that. But I think sometimes though, I understand why people focus so much on the fact that video was edited, but even just zooming out, what you put it perfectly. Who cares, honestly, if the video was edited a bit? Obviously, that's not representing realistic capabilities, but we're so close to those types of capabilities already. Whatever model or tool you want to show, how quickly this is moving, that's what we kind of encourage people to really keep their eye on the ball in that sense of don't get too caught in the weeds of which model is slightly better, what did Google do wrong or right or ugly, whatever. Like focus on the fact that these tools are getting so good so quickly. What does that mean for your business, your career, and your personal life, honestly?
Mike, this is just how I'm wired, Mike. So there's a Louis C.K. joke, and he says, I was getting on an airplane, and they announced, hey, there's going to be internet on this airplane. And they got up to 29,000 feet, and the internet didn't work. And the guy next to him was like, this is bull crap. He's like, you knew about it for 5 seconds, and now your heart's broken. We're like, I knew Gemini for like 5 seconds. It wasn't exactly the way they dreamed. And I'm like, why could you do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's on them for sure. They should anticipate. That was a pretty hyped up on their part. So,
yeah.
That's society, and it's a really important point. It's like, how fast does a luxury become a necessity? This is like, I think it's an Andrew Carnegie quote from like 100 years ago. Like, the job of capitalism is to turn luxuries into necessities. Your expectations move very quickly as individuals, personally, psychologically, each of us. Our expectations change very quickly. So, you want that answer now. You want it to be easy. You want that thing, of course. I want my tools to be able to expand the frame and draw the missing pixels for the, change the aspect ratio of any video. What? 2 weeks ago, that was magic to you, and now you demand that of all your tools. So it's not only is the technology advancing, but I think it's worth noting just how fast society changes to adapt to these things and how fast user expectations change. Imagine being a software company without a pipeline for these features. You're in trouble.
Yeah, and as marketers, I mean, how many years have we been talking about how consumer expectations have changed to be very, expecting very seamless, rapid experiences like they get with leading consumer brands? And it's like that just got kicked up 10x.
That's right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm reading, I just finished a book. You might have read this, Mike, The Coming Wave, the Mustafa Suleyman.
It's on my list. Yeah, that's a big one.
And he jokes around. He's like, AI is really innovative. And then when people get used to it very quickly, and then it's just software. You know what I mean? Like, meaning like you get it, it's a luxury, and then it becomes this thing. And then it's like when it doesn't work just right, you're like, you just don't understand. Like, this is like the miracle of flight, but now you're over it. So
yeah, there's no going back. Once these really get dialed in and some of these video, image, text generation capabilities, dynamic UXs on the fly, essentially personalized internet in your hand, like there's no going back.
yeah, I have a proposal for a client. They're an insurance company. I have an AI development company that works with me, and we're gonna literally have their quote. They take 2 other quotes. Every time you have an insurance plan, these things are these briefs that have been lawyered up like forever. Every time they had to do this manually, they would have to compare this, and it would take 5 hours to compare plans. And if you have 2 other plans, it could take 10 hours. We're building a system where you just plop the documents in, the AI does the comparison, says these are the things you want to say, these are the things you don't want to say, and if you want to have any questions, there's another tab where you can just talk to the documents with natural language. Boom. Mm-hmm. But my thing is that we've been working on this, and then now the client is kind of like, wants this one feature. I was like, well, that's really hard. He's like, oh, come on. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I was like, think what I just said.
That's funny.
Anyhow.
Yeah, I think the switch goes from, we all had to write and publish, and people had to discover and consume. And then it changed to, we had this giant, amazing tool to write and publish. And the way that visitors discover and consume also changes. So it kind of amps up all those processes. But keep going with that thinking, and you end up in a world where the content is created on demand, right? Like it's almost like some of the things that I ask AI to, like, how to slime protect slugs. It's basically asking AI to write a blog post for me and give me the answer, like in 6 paragraphs, a bullet list. So it's like on demand content. So there might be a day when it's like, hey, you want to watch a show? Sure. Look, how about a murder mystery, kind of a thriller, maybe a historic fiction thing? I want to make me a movie with some twist surprise endings in ancient Rome with a strong female protagonist and a funky soundtrack. Boom, there's your movie. You're going to watch that movie and you're going to love it.
Yep. And it's like, I want Catherine Zeta-Jones, who's 60 years old, and Tom Holland, and I want them to be the same age. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like crazy.
Yep.
We got to put a timestamp in that prediction, because I feel like we could look back a few years from now. Be
I
like,
know.
wow, yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, on-demand blog post with my slime slug thing. So it's December 14th, 2023, and we just predicted that we will live in a world where there will be on-demand, entertaining, high-production value content, where you're going to pick actors from alive in different eras, alive or dead, and they're going to have a screenplay. But let me ask you guys, is it going to be good? Is it going to be as good? Are you going to like it as much? Or is there a relationship between the creator and the consumer through the medium? Are you going to kind of be less interested in it because you'll know that there was no drama around the creation of it? It wasn't really made by anyone you care about. Does that matter?
I watched Indiana Jones, and Harrison Ford was 35 years old for 40 minutes, and my brain did not care.
That's a good example. I was similarly shocked and impressed by that part of that movie.
Yeah, yeah, crazy. But
Probably
think
don't care.
about Pika Labs, right? So I show you Pika Labs. I think of an idea, and it goes for 18 seconds or 20 seconds. The last frame of that, already in Pika Labs, I could take the last frame of that and go 18 seconds farther from the last frame. Now I have 36 seconds. In theory, Andy, if we had enough time and enough ideas, you and I could make that movie right now. I'm not saying, you know what I mean? That's a very weird example, but I'm not stretching the truth of how, imagine a multi-million-dollar production company.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see because I feel like there is still going to be, whether it's as mainstream as it is today, there's still going to be some segment where there's going to be a whole category of films that are like, hey, these are human only created or something, right? Where it'll become some type of almost maybe bespoke or sort of artisan thing. I'm not saying that's where it'll go, but I could see even in the most optimistic future of this technology where it can just make these movies like this easily, I would still see certain human created stuff having some pull with people, but it'll be interesting to see because I don't know, part of me wants to have a strong opinion that, you know, we'll always love like powerful human driven stories, but then honestly you could probably just lie to me and say a human wrote it, and if I was like, oh, it moved me to tears, and then tell me later, you know, it was a machine that did it. So I don't know.
Yeah. I watched Post Malone on the Joe Rogan show, and he said he was already talking about licensing people that they showed him a song, and I show this in my presentation, my AI presentation. So the song it sounded just like him, a song he never wrote. But then I tell this story about, this is Amanda, and she's in nursing school. She doesn't think she's going to graduate. She just broke up with her boyfriend, and she just bought a puppy. So in the future, when Amanda listens to Post Malone, he's going to be singing songs about boyfriends, colleges, and puppies. Because he said, yes, I will definitely take checks for songs I never wrote. If you want to take my likeness and multiply it in a million ways, he's like, of course I'll take that. I will give you the premium content that comes right from my heart. But if you want to take my voice, my likeness, and my things like that and create it right to your echo chamber, I'll get paid for that, sure. That's what he said. I was like, wow.
I think it's a good point because really we talk about this as if we're like losing something. Is this part of our humanity? Is art, you know, what's the nature of art? What's the nature of content? But for the creator, there are creators who create to promote a business and not to directly monetize their content. People like me. Like, oh, Andy, aren't you worried that someone will like take all your stuff and make a digital twin of you and then start giving like, actually, that sounds great to me. I'm pretty tired. I've written 580 articles. I would love to have a digital twin. If I could clone myself, man, it'd be great. I'm exhausted. Like, how many years can I keep doing this forever? Exactly. So no, I think that there's use cases where it's like, that sounds fantastic. Please, I am trying to build a custom GPT that can act like me. It's not working that great yet, but
Yeah.
But I'm not someone who's trying to make money directly from my content. I produce content for kind of indirect benefits to my business.
Cool.